Welcome back to another edition of Between Two Fars. I'm Warneke Miller, and we have been talking with Judge Reid Prouty, who is Vice Chairman of the Armed Services Board of Contract Appeals. We've been getting some great insight, and we'd like to talk about the hot new topic as we wrap up our series with you, and that is hearings. Virtual? In person? Hybrid? What are we looking at as we move forward in this brave new world?
Sure. Great question, Warneke. And a question on a lot of people's minds. As we're speaking now, and this is May of 2022, we're coming out of COVID. Maybe, we hope. At least people are going back to the office more full-time than they were before. And during COVID, the board, like many other tribunals, went to hearings that were virtual. We started with Teams, we moved to Zoom, we might go back to Teams again. And we picked up quite a few hearings that way. And the input we got back from people who were experiencing it was, hey, it wasn't that bad. And in fact, like any other technology, there were some teething pains, but people pretty much mastered it. And as a consequence, even though we're going to return to the office, hopefully within a few months, and in fact, we already are holding some hearings live in person in the office, subject to some limitations. Zoom hearings are going to be part of our tool belt for the future. That doesn't mean they're all going to be Zoom hearings. Perhaps most won't. But there are going to be circumstances where, for efficiency reasons, for cost reasons, that people decide, you know what, I want to do my hearing by Zoom. And if both parties agree to that, we're going to likely say, sure, that's just fine with us. After all, it's part of the board's mission to be efficient and cost efficient and a good way of making easy dispute resolution. Now, the next question is, what about hybrid hearings? Will there be circumstances where you have, some people will testify by video and some people testify in person? And the answer is, sure, we'll do that as well. And in fact, we did it even before COVID. As many of you might know, the board has a strong military background, and we do a lot of cases from Afghanistan and Iraq, or at least we did. And in those circumstances, oftentimes people had to come in remote. We would bring in somebody on the phone from Afghanistan or by Skype from, say, Iraq or Syria or wherever they might be. And we did that before, and there's no reason for us not to continue to do it, except that actually now, with the perfection and the more common utilization of the Zoom and the Teams platforms, it'd be even easier for us to do that and more of a routine thing to do.
How do you feel about your ability to judge witness credibility in person versus on the phone versus over video? Do you feel that there's a difference in your ability to really decipher what they're saying and how trustworthy they are?
Sure. There's a joke that judges think that you've got lie detectors. And the truth of the matter is that generally, yes, it does help to sort of see their mannerisms and how directly they respond to you. But usually the better indicator of whether or not somebody is telling the truth is more about how consistent is it with their written record, how consistent is their story, how believable is it just by it in and of itself. Sure, the physical manifestations of testimony do give some clues and are helpful to consider, but the truth of the matter is, oftentimes even people who are telling the truth can be nervous. Different people do different jobs on the stand, and that alone is not dispositive usually as far as us knowing whether or not the person's telling the truth. Now, I will tell you, for an ADR, which we didn't bring up, but it is also a way to do it virtually. I much prefer to do it in person. And I'll say, by the way, I do prefer to do hearings in person, not just for the be able to tell if a person's telling the truth, but it's just easier to sort of interrupt people, to able to stop people and sort of get a more firm answer to some questions. You can do that on the phone. You can do that video, but it's not quite as easy. But for an ADR, you're typically more effective when it's in person. And that's because all the small sort of social cues, all the sort of chit-chatting in the hallway about things that aren't necessarily directly on point about the dispute or the mediation, all those things add to getting to the result you're going to want to get. And observing body language, actually, and seeing this is an issue that's really important to this person, this one is not an issue that's important to that person. All of those things are infinitely easier to do in person than by video, which isn't to say that a video ADR isn't effective, far from it. I would say that a video ADR, 80 to 85% chance you're going to get a resolution. In person, 90 to 95% chance. So, doing a video ADR mediation is still infinitely superior to not doing one at all. But on the margins, doing it in person, you're more likely to have success if you can do it. But if you can't, by all means, do the video one.
Fantastic. This is incredibly useful information, and we really do appreciate all the time and effort that you have put into coming down to talk to our team about these matters. We don't do a lot of ASBCA litigation, but when we've got something, it really does, it's an all hands on deck. A lot of people are contributing, and so the fact that you took the time out to recognize our need for some insight and instruction, or were willing to just come and educate us this way, we are incredibly grateful. Thank you so much for your time in this series, Judge Prouty.
Of course, it's a pleasure. I'll just add, we're happy to do the same thing for the private bar, and we do it with APA presentations and things of that nature. The more educated the people before us are, the better job everybody can do in getting resolution of the contract disputes.
Hear, hear, yes. Thank you so much for joining us for this series, and come back again to see what we've got next on Between Two Fars.